Hey Stewards, I am here today with Tammy Fink from Blue Water Designs. And as you know, Tammy, as you know from the bio that I posted in the event, Tammy has some amazing experience with some big name companies like Hershey and Hewlett Packard and Mighty Mouse and some others that I'm sure I'm forgetting right now. But she also works with entrepreneurs and solopreneurs at every level as well. And so she has these awesome programs for the big brands to connect and have processes, but she also works with the smaller brands as well with some options that are kind of tailored to us to help us where we're starting out with our branding and our connection and how all of that kind of is intertwined and works together. And so we're going to talk with Tammy about building those meaningful connections, how we do that, and how we make it a part of our systems and processes. But I kind of want to give you a little bit of a picture into the kind of thing that Tammy helps to sort of try to create. Now, all of you guys know that I did Tribe last year and how much I loved it and how fantastic it was. And I talk a lot about it. And I am going to use Tribe as an example today. I was very tempted to use Disney. I'm sure you all know that. But we're going to use Tribe because Tribe, some of you are probably already familiar with the logo for Tribe. It says Tribe, and then it has the three little circles, two rows across that kind of represent people in a community. And so most of us were so excited to be in Tribe. And prior to the actual launch and getting in and getting active in the course, we were already so connected with Stu. He does a great job of creating those connections and maintaining them. And so we were clamoring for merchandise. Like, we wanted Tribe gear. We wanted Tribe swag, and we were ready to pay for it. We're like, give it to us. Where can we get it? Are you going to have shirts we can order? Like, we all wanted it. So, of course, they did have something in the works to give us that option. Had they not had already, I'm sure they would have done it quickly because there was such a clamoring for that. And so I think that speaks volumes about the connection that he made with us, because we all were ready to part with even more dollars than we had just paid to be in Tribe, which was not cheap, to be able to be branded as part of that community, to have this identity that showed that we were part of this thing that Stu had created. And so that's the kind of connections we want with our audience, right? Tammy, this is your area of specialty. What would your clients pay to have that kind of connection? Your big guys, how happy would they be?
They would be super happy. It's really cool. We have this level, you deal with trade shows, and especially when you're starting out and different things, you'll have trade shows or events that you'll go to and you'll get the free swag, right? We've all got the, handful of pins and all of the stuff that way, that we're getting freebies and putting all those pieces together. But what the magical piece that really happens is just like what you said about Stu. It's coming alongside and saying, look, this is what we're trying to achieve. This is our brand. This is our backstory. These are all the pieces and parts, so people know, like, and trust you. And that's really when you have these extra pieces and stuff that you could add in, that's what increases, and that's how you know that people know, like, and trust you. When they're willing to do business, when they're willing to part with extra cash. But it does more. There's so many times you can do it right and you can do it wrong. There are so many times that, seriously, you get the freebie stuff and it's the first thing that goes into the garage sale, right? Or the junk drawer or whatever that is. But if you've branded everything correctly, if you've really captured the imagination of your clients, then they want to come alongside and they want pieces that are more than swag. And that's what we help people do, is to create those pieces that say, this is what it is. I want to be a part of your story. I want to be a part of your journey. I want to be a part of your tribe, right? And that's where really Stu has the brilliance of what they've put together, because they did do those things, and they had welcome boxes and they had all of the pieces and parts, and you knew, everybody wanted it, but they teased, in the background of some of the stuff that they were doing, they were actually getting people super excited about, how excited were we about sticky notes? We could have had Stu could have sent out sticky notes to everybody and they would have been thrilled, because when you signed up, you got your name on a sticky note and it went on the wall to form this, wonderful art piece, right? So, it was a whole experience, and I think that's what you're looking for. You're looking to create unique experiences, whatever that is, and swag and those memento pieces can certainly be a part of that.
Okay. In your experience, what's been the most powerful way that you've been able to help your people connect through a created thing, right? Because Stew and Tribe was an example kind of the perfect coming together of all of those elements. But what do those elements look like? And how do you make those things powerful? How do you make that all come together?
A lot of it, I think, is having the conversation with your clients. When you're starting out, you're thinking, oh, I don't have any clients, or I only have one or two. I don't have this huge tribe. So what you have to do is you have the unique opportunity, especially when you're small, especially when you're just starting out, to have the conversations. You have something that Coca-Cola doesn't have, because you can call your client and say, look, this is what I'm trying to achieve. Would you like it in digital form, or do you want a printed version? When you ask them those questions, you just start listening for the things that you can do to make it what we call a wow moment, right? It is a wow moment for us is something that is surprise and delight. I mean, obviously that's what we're achieving. But to me, I call it my M&Ms. You want it meaningful and memorable. And so whatever those pieces are that you're putting together, you need to kind of measure them against those things. It's that, in the Christian world, and as we're kind of going through that, a lot of times you don't have to convince people in this that hospitality is a requirement. It's not a nice to have. It's not, people need to feel welcome. And I think that, that's something that we do really, really well for the most part. But we can get on the online space. There's kind of this gap between in real life and online. And somehow when we get online, we forget about in real life that we're dealing with real people. We're worried about the numbers. We're worried about the likes and all the shares and all of that. But really, you're looking for those pieces. So some cool things that you can do. I mean, even let's look, a lot of people have business cards, right? That's something that's pretty easy, relatively inexpensive in the big picture of things. Do you have your face on your business card? Are you reaching out to people and saying, hey, I'm a real person? Are you giving out business cards? Does your husband, does your wife have copies of your business card that they can give out to people? That is a connection. You know what I mean? It's an excuse. It's a reason to say, hey, let's take a look at this. This is what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. For you yourself as a consumer, what is the most powerful moment of connection that you've had on that consumer side, whether that was a business to consumer moment or a business to business moment with you as the consumer? What sticks out the most for you? When was the last time you were wowed? Right.
And it is one of those things that you just have to look for those moments and say, hey, this really, really mattered to me. I have had restaurant situations. We can all kind of relate to that, right? We can have good restaurant experiences. We can have bad restaurant experiences. I know some of my favorite things is when somebody remembers my name. If I've been there a couple of times, even, if they can look at those pieces, look at those ways to really connect with me. Waitresses that are checking back and doing all the things that we expect from waitresses, right? Make sure our water glass is full and all of that. Those are just little things, but they can make such a huge difference between a really lovely evening and an evening that's like, oh my gosh, I just should have stayed home and cooked the steak myself, And so you are looking at those type of examples of some fantastic customer service moments. And it is in the customer experience. And I think that those are some of the best moments I know that I've had have been along those routes. Now, I've had some great stuff. I had a client, it's kind of funny. People who don't know me, I am loud, lovable, we all full of laughs and all of that. When I get on a customer service call, when somebody, like I'm calling GoDaddy, right? Or I'm calling and dealing with people, I have things that I say that are funny that make people laugh from the very beginning. And I love those connection moments because that those people have had a really lousy day. That is, customer service is one of the thankless jobs and we blame everything on them. But I like to get them going. When you get them into a mode of wanting to be helpful to you, that helps you and them. And I know that I had a moment with a service rep from a IT company. And they were sales. They were trying to go through this whole deal. At the end of the call, after we had cut our 15, 20-minute conversation, they actually sent me some notebooks and some candy and some things all in a package deal. And he said, and a handwritten note that said, this never happens. I never connect with people like this. My manager said, send you stuff. So we did. And I talked about him online because I thought that was fantastic. It did so much more from the call. I haven't even done business with them yet. I mean, I've not spent dime one, but they've bought into our relationship. If I know somebody who needs their services, they're the first people I'm going to refer it. So it matters more than just that initial connection. It can have this ripple effect that's incredible for companies.
It's almost like that. I don't even know at this point if it's a true story or an urban myth or whatever that you just happen to hear when you're in grad school, where they talk about there was a business professor and he talked at the beginning of the class, about the importance of connections and treating everybody the same, from the janitor all the way up to the CEO. And so, you have this long, extensive semester. Everybody shows up for the final exam. They turn their paper over, and the only question on the test is, what's the name of the janitor? The one that you walk past every day in this building. And so the point of that being to give the same attention and the same consideration and the same value as a person to whoever's in front of you, regardless of what that outcome is going to be,
Oh, sure.
And you talked about, the swag that ends up in the garage sale, and I've often thought about that. And in fact, we have somebody here with us today who's going to be speaking at a homeschool conference in May, and she's thinking about what she needs for her vendor booth. And that's kind of my thing, is any conference like that I've ever been to, including the one that I just went to this fall, I've never been moved to do business with anyone or to make a choice based on the swag that I got at their table. If I held on to anything to remember them or connect with them later, it was based on the conversation that I had with them, the interaction that I had with them. And so at the same time, we know we need sometimes swag and things, right? And something to pass out. And so how can you help that merge a little bit more when you can't necessarily have that interaction with every single person who's stopping at your vendor booth? If there's one of you and 10 of them, and they're, you know what I mean? What can you do to increase that connection? Or is that an unrealistic expectation altogether?
Here's my thought process, and it's going to be a little different than you're going to hear. So, it's just another way to think of things. When you go to an event, and that's your target, especially if it's a local event, something that you've got, and I'm not sure where all your people are traveling to events, but sometimes you even sponsor events. Sometimes as you get bigger companies, even speakers and stuff, if you've written a book, sometimes you'll go and you'll sponsor an event so that you get the opportunity to speak on stage, do different things like that. So it really just depends on why you're there, and you need to have a why. That's your very first thing. Why attend? They're expensive. You need to be sure that you've got a really good idea on your ROI, on your return on investment for what that show is going to cost you, because you've got hotels if you're staying away from home. You've got the cost of being there. You've got food costs. It's always crazy. If you stay in the hotels, staying in the hotel can cost you more than what the conference does sometimes. So you have all of these factors, and you need to factor in all of them. But here's what I'm going to tell you is, you need to start looking before you even get there, how you can interact with people, and who you want to meet while you're there. You don't need to meet everybody who's coming down the thing. You don't need just to be handing out pins. They're probably not going to call you from your pin. They're not going to call, you put your information on there in hopes, because it's there and it's, relatively inexpensive. But at the end of the day, you do want to have those connection pieces. Are you going to be meeting with the people who are sponsoring the event? Are those possibly clients? And you have to look at those. Your vendors, if you're there for 2 or 3 days, you need to be building relationships with your vendors. If you can get a vendor list before you get there, that's priceless, because then you already know, and you can even make some of those connections to say, hey, I'll see you there, right? And especially if you're wanting to build those connections. I usually take somebody with me so that they can man the booth while I schmooze, because that's going to be something that I do. When you're coming up with items, you might have some small items that could be just little candy bars. It doesn't even have to be a big thing if you're just giving stuff away to be giving it away. But then you might have some higher end items that you want to do, maybe something that's more tech related if that's your market. But again, you want to use those pieces to attract your ideal customer to you, and not be something that you're just giving them stuff to put in the junk drawer to put in their bag. So this needs to be something that you're really trying to connect with. I will tell you, I just went to a conference in San Diego in December. So just been a month now that I went. I had people asking me that was really funny. And I had a client who was a sponsor of the event. I had known the production company that hosted the event and all of that. I had gotten into the Facebook group. They put you in a Facebook group a lot of times. And I just started talking with everybody in that group. Just started talking with them. By the time I actually showed up 2 or 3 weeks later, people knew who I was and they expected to see me there. And I had people coming up to me all the time wanting to connect with me. I didn't even have to go out and search people. And I had people saying, how do all these people know you? They even mentioned me from stage a couple of times, just different things, because I put myself out there. And I'm the most extroverted introvert you'll ever meet. But I put myself out there because I went there on a mission. It wasn't about handing pins. And I think you have to be really clear as to why you're going. Does that help? Does that give you some nuggets there?
Yeah. I kind of feel, I was actually going to ask, it's funny that you brought up candy, because I was going to say, like, wouldn't it be better to just have a really great digital lead magnet that's going to draw your perfect people and then just give everybody Hershey Kisses because they're cheap and everybody will love you?
But people do love the Hershey's Kisses, and just depending on what that is. I'll give you a really good example of something that we got one time that people would have slapped their logo on everything. We're all proud of our logos, and I've designed some fantastic logos. But what at the end of the day, and even how I've kind of worked through this, I've been a graphic designer for over 30 years. You need to kind of know that. Have played with a lot of the big boys and their toys and stuff, which has been a lot of fun. Created just a lot of different products and stuff where we worked with their brands. So we worked with Hershey's, we worked with Cinnabon and different places like that to do cappuccino machines and all sorts of different fun products like that. But 4 years ago, I attended a retreat, and there was a woman by the name of Heather Gray who spoke. She's a mindset coach, and she spoke on that particular day about staying in your own lane. And she did a fantastic job. She handed out at some point Hot Wheels cars, right? This was my little Hot Wheels car. I love this. Does not have her logo, her brand, her name anywhere on this car. We went through a box that was set at each table, and we went through while she was talking before she got started and pulled out our own Hot Wheels car, right? This has been on my desk for 4 years, right? Does not have her name. I know where I was. I know who was speaking. I know what her topic was based on a Hot Wheel. Those are meaningful and memorable connections. Right?
Okay. So let's flip this a little bit then, because I love that. One of the things that I have done, and I'm still on the very small end, right, in terms of clients. And so I've been able to do this. And I think you and I may have briefly talked about this before, just kind of back and forth in a thread a little bit. But I still have the ability, because I'm small and because I do some one-on-one coaching, that I've had enough meaningful conversations that I connect with my clients, and I send them something that is specific to their circumstances, that is specific to their personality. It meets a need that they have right then. They know that I see them, I hear them, I value them. If that doesn't come naturally to somebody, right? Because I have a lot of authors, I have a lot of coaches, I have a lot of, we kind of run the range in here. I would say if we had to put anybody in the majority camp, I have more coaches and membership model builders and service agencies and authors. Like that's where most of my people fall right now, although they fall in a lot of other areas too, but that's probably where the bulk of my people are. So how can they develop a little bit of a system or a process, right? Because that kind of thing comes naturally to me. I think it comes naturally to you too. How do you teach it to somebody? Because I know people who have said to me, I struggle to make those connections. People are not, some of us are people, right? Not everybody is, and they struggle to know how to make those connections. So what advice would you give them that is going to work while they're one-on-one and small, but that also can still kind of scale along with them, if that makes sense?
No, it absolutely makes sense. And I think, one of my favorite things to do is this. First of all, for those, you'll have people that are listeners or talkers, right? And so wherever you fall into that category, if you're more of a listener, you may want to have some strategic questions that you ask. And even if you're like too embarrassed to say, so when's your birthday? Age of Aquarius, whatever we got going on. If you're too embarrassed to do that, make that part of your onboarding. Make that part of something that automatically gets asked. Ask what size their t-shirt size is. Ask them these things that you can do consistently. I take notes. I take notes on people I meet on Facebook all the time because it's harder for me, number one, because of the sheer volume of people on Facebook. But in my social media, if there is somebody who I want to know that I think that we would do great, doing great business together, and I'm not saying just selling, I'm saying that maybe they're a connection that's going to be, they're going to have me on their podcast. Maybe they're going to be able to be partnering with me with something that I can provide for them that they don't specialize in. You want to learn who those people are, and it doesn't have to be just about the sales. So you're trying to figure out what that relationship could possibly be, what are the opportunities for it, and take good notes. Even if you're doing it by pen and paper. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. There's some cool digital stuff out there. There's some great CRMs, that you can buy into that kind of help you through this. But at the end of the day, it's some basic things that we just kind of overlook because we're, again, that in real life versus, the digital space. Sometimes we lose our mind in between there. So that's been my focus, is how do you bridge that gap? Mm-hmm. How can I make this something you can say? I mean, you've had people that just send birthday cards. If you do nothing else but physically send a birthday card, if you do nothing else but send postcards when you go on vacation, letting people know that you're going to be out of pocket, that you're going to miss them, you wish they were there, whatever your message is, those little things that you can do that nobody else is doing, that's what is going to make you stand out from your competition because nobody else is doing it. And It's easy and it's not crazy expensive. You're not buying them a new car.
No. And in fact, I have kind of a personal habit of handwritten note cards because the written word makes me feel valued. And I think that, like you said, it's rare. And so over the years, if you've ever, I know you're a Target girl too. Right? I think I've seen that somewhere. Yeah. So over the years, anytime I walk into Target in the bullseye section, I constantly pick up the dollar note cards because it's not about the amount of money that you spend on that card. It's about the thought behind it and the fact that it's personal attention. So like I tell people all the time, just go in there and stock up when they're $1. I mean, I've probably got 3 years worth, even though I send them out a lot. But there is one challenge with that I want to ask you how you get around, because if somebody's already your client, you may have their address. How do you get the address of people to get their attention when they're not doing business with you yet without looking like a crazy internet stalker?
I will give you one of my best takeaways and stuff to get it. It doesn't. Number one, you want to get everybody's email address. That is like pride. So you can have your thing that they sign up for, their freemium, whatever those pieces are. You can have those things. And you're right. You don't get an address on that. But if you give away things periodically, people give you they're happy to send you their address for something that you're going to send them in the mail, right? If you, as far as your client base and stuff, maybe that's the step up. Maybe those people get birthday cards.
Gotcha.
And you have those. But even I've had clients, especially in the online space, I've had clients that I didn't know. I didn't have any idea. I mean, I knew where they were at, but I didn't have an address for them. I got everything through PayPal. I did all the stuff. You don't have to deal with that. Now, you can, when you get a payment from somebody, you can get their address from that information and stuff. If it's correct, you might want to verify it because it's not always, absolutely guaranteed for sure that they're in that same spot or haven't changed offices and didn't change their PayPal information. But a lot of that credit card information, is fairly current. fairly reliable as far as being able to send out things. So those are some of the things. You can not to get into, you can do some Facebook stalking. You can get into some websites where they have their site information and stuff, and a lot of times they'll have addresses and stuff on there. So if you're wanting to surprise somebody, or you're wanting to, your authors, maybe they want to get past a gatekeeper. I tell people all the time, some of the stuff, the best ways to get past gatekeepers, and what a gatekeeper is like your secretary or your assistants that go through the mail before they get to the boss, right? Send them something that is oddly shaped. I'll give you an example in a minute. Something that is a box, something that's contained in that. A lot of times they won't open those things. Those things are personal, and they'll get sent on to the powers that be without having to go through the gauntlet of the gatekeeper. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's so funny. I asked you that question, and I actually just had a thought. Now, I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner, but, Pat Flynn in his book Superfans talks about using Bonjoro, which
absolutely.
Okay. So you can just do a personalized video. Like, you don't really have to actually have somebody's address if you want to do some kind of a personal touch. And while there are other people out there doing that, I think it's very few and far between. And, when I started my beta membership, I used Loom to do that. So
I've done that too.
Almost always a way around it, right? You just have to get creative.
You have to figure it out, and at what level you are and what you want to offer at that level. This is something I love sending these and stuff, these giant lifesaver rolls, and I'll wrap it in brown paper, and put stickers on it or whatever fun stuff I want to do. But this is something that's different shaped and stuff that will get through. I've also done banners. The big banners and stuff like that you have like at trade shows and all of that. Yeah. You can take, if you have a team, it's kind of cool, or if you have different projects that you're doing, or if you've done a live event where you've taken a picture of a group, it is not crazy expensive to have those printed on banners. And they come in a roll like that. You roll them up or whatever and send them as mementos of an occasion or a thank you or whatever. And you can have people sign them. I mean, there's so many different cool things that you can do when you think outside of the box of things that are shaped differently that'll get sent and really kind of stand out in the bulk mail. Right?
Right. So it sounds like a couple different things. So the first thing that I'm hearing you when you're talking about maximizing your potential at a conference is that you kind of want to take a page out of Rachel Miller's book in Niche Neighborhood with your people ahead of time before you get there, right? Like Absolutely. That's that virtual concept that the people in my group know about that's going to align with what you're talking about at the conference. Yep. And that it's not as much about the what you do. It's all about making sure that you are, like you said, listening and making it meaningful and memorable. And Lacey really liked the whole Eminem.
It's one of my favorites. So.
Yeah. Okay. And I want to make sure, I know I had I want to make sure I don't leave any of the questions off that I had for you. All right. So I know that you happen to work with some different coaches who like to do planners for their people. Yes. So since we have so many coaches and we have authors and that kind of thing, talk to me a little bit about how that's been successful for your clients and why they might want to consider designing a planner for their people and how that can apply to different types of things. Because I've got bodybuilding coaches, I've got homeschool coaches, I've got all manner of, I've got Facebook ads coaches,
Well, I think it's regardless of what you have. I kind of specialize with people who have paid programs or they have a paid membership. They have people, right, that they've got to support in some way. Yes, you can design a planner and sell it. They're a dime a dozen, but you can certainly specialize in something. What I like to see people do is utilize these products a little bit differently. And it's not that you're going out to Walmart and buying a planner for your people so that they can keep track of stuff. This is actually designing planners that speak the language of your tribe, right? Figure out what they want. Figure out what you want them to be tracking. Are you a fitness coach? Well, they might want to also track their water. And so you definitely want to have places on there for them to track their water. You want to maybe have recipes that you want them to use, smoothie drinks, different things that way. There's all this information that you have that you want your people to go through, right? So if you come up with a planner or a journal, if you've written a book, maybe there's a journal piece that goes next to it. Maybe it's an affirmation card deck. I mean, whatever these supplemental pieces are, you make that a part of and a value add to what they're already getting from you. I tell people that if you can get your particular item, whatever custom item you're doing, if you can get it on their desk, if you can get it in their closet, if you can get it in their kitchen, you have now become a part of their life, a part of their lifestyle, and that helps you. That's going to give them better client retention, right? They are going to get through your programs. You're going to have more success that way, which you're going to get them talking about you when you have these type of items that when you're doing a planner, you're putting together. There's so many things to doing it. I take people through, hey, this is a great idea, all the way through. We do everything. We create the planners for you. I've got a workshop that goes through and you can plan it all out, figure out what it looks like, but we can have it printed for you and we can have it warehoused and order shipped directly to your clients. There's so many pieces and stuff that we can do. It's not these really tiny projects. It is a little bit bigger of a project, but you can have things done. You can do it digitally. And we talk through that. Like I said, I have a workshop that you can take that you go through planning your own planner for your tribe, but it is thinking of those little extra things. How can you connect better from your online components and all of your training and teaching and put that into something that they can actually document their progress, which helps you when you get ready to sign them on to the next project or to renew them for next year. They've kept track of their progress, right? So it kind of makes sense. It's a win for them. It's a win for you. Does that fall into that?
Because you've given them a tool to help them go through the process, right? Because we can coach somebody through something, but depending on what it is, like I have Lacey does bikini competitions and she is an IFBB pro. And so maybe she would want her girls to be tracking their macros and their lean muscle mass gains. I may not be fully speaking this language, right? Lacey, you can correct me if you need to. Their hydration levels, there could be a whole lot of different things that she could work in from the competition into that would help them see their progress from the beginning, through their first competition. And then as they continue on to come up through the circuit as they compete, that would be very specific to what she's doing. And then they have, like you said, that progress in front of them. And one of the things that she said that sticks out to me, though, is kind of staying top of mind because it's always on their desk. Because whenever I'm talking to my clients about their lead magnets, I'm like, you need to make it simple. You need to make it a quick win. And you need to make it something that they reference so much that it's either on their refrigerator with a magnet or it's at the top of their desk and they are constantly referencing it. So falls right in line with what you're talking about with the planners. So you mentioned that you had a workshop, and I do want to tell everybody about your workshop because even though you guys do the really extensive stuff too, that is we're giving Lacey a bunch of ideas.
I know. Yeah. Lacey's cracking me up. And if I keep your audience awake tonight thinking of all the ideas, I've done my job.
So Tammy and her company, if you had a huge membership, and some of us want to be there by this time next year, right? If you had a huge membership and you were doing welcome boxes, like they literally could do the entire thing for you from design to fulfillment. But most of us are not there yet, okay? Right. And so this is why I want Tammy to share the information about her workshops, because I know you're thinking, wow, some of the things that she's talking about are maybe out of reach for me. Not so much. She has 2 really great workshops. And the one that she already mentioned was about the one that takes you through designing that planner for your own tribe. And it's only $97. So that is not a bad investment at all. And I'm going to let you tell them about the $47 workshop. And I think most of us probably need that one, but I would like for you to explain it.
Let me tell you a little bit about the $47 workshop. It's called Legendary Logo Bootcamp. And what it is before you design, and you may have already designed your logo. We've all been down that road too, because that's some of the fun, sexy stuff that we like to do, right? It's some of the things that it's like, that's all flashy and exciting. Here's a couple of the things that I found out. I've helped people design logos. I've redesigned logos for people. I've had people bring me Fiverr logos. I've had people bring me logos that their brother-in-law designed for them and worked for them for a time, but maybe they wanted to up level, or maybe they never worked because they didn't really understand what a logo was as part of the brand.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a couple of takeaways with this. Number one, before you hire a designer or process, you need to know who you're trying to attract. And most people, that's one of the things I see. So many people miss that component of their logo, that they're thinking, oh, purple's my favorite color and this and that. You go through all the things and I love this. At the end of the day, I always say this, at the end of the day, your logo does not have to match the couch. It needs to attract your audience.
It's not about you.
Clients. It's not about you at all. And, there's things, that you have to put into it and stuff to actually capture their attention. Consistency is important because you want it, you want them to recognize your logo, but you're not Coca-Cola. So it's not as important as it is for that idea that it looks professional, that it looks clean, that you can read it in the different applications. So what I do is I have created this boot camp that takes you through the creative process of what we call the creative brief. And that is who your client is. That is what colors attract, what things you're trying to say with your brand. Your color matters. Your font choice matters. There's different things that you put together. And when you're looking at it, you're thinking, oh, somebody will just take care of that for me, right? I don't know what I want, but I'll know it when I see it. All of that is wrong. Because it's not the concept. Again, it's not about you. It's about your client. So you have to know so much ahead. So we walk you through step by step. I give you real world examples of logos, of things that we've done to create ideas for logos. I've designed, I've got one of the things, I don't see it laying here on my desk, but I have a logo that I designed for a company, for a local restaurant. We're actually in Branson, Missouri. So there's tons of restaurants and all the craziness that goes on here with the entertainment world. But we designed a logo based off of a chicken house or whatever that was done by the ceramic chicken that they brought me and said, hey, we want to do this. They took it and designed it bigger so that there's this giant 42-foot chicken downtown somewhere, that this is part of their branding. And it made sense for what they were doing, but that's how the process went. It wasn't just something that they came up with because they had this is what they want to do with it. Mm-hmm. So we walked through all of those pieces and parts. I've had clients tell me later on stuff that this was one of the most comprehensive logo pieces that they had ever gone through, because you understand the language that you need to share with the designer. I don't even, you don't have to come back to me for the logo. You can take it on and have somebody else do it, but you're going to know what you need. If you do Fiverr, you're going to know what files you need. You're not going to get ripped off from Fiverr. If you're going to, have your brother-in-law do it, you know what files you need, you know what colors you're going to pick and why.
Well, and it sounds like even if you want to try to go it on your own with Canva, you understand how to create it though to give you the outcome that you want. And I think that would be $47 well spent for all of us. I have to tell you a story about a friend of mine, and she had started a very small business and was just starting out, and sent me her page to look at to see what I thought. And she got her logo, and it wasn't Fiverr, it was some other, I'd never heard of them, but she had, one of those kind of deals. And I said, okay. I messaged a couple of other friends. I said, do me a favor. I just need you to look at this page and tell me what the first thing is that you think of when you see the logo. And they all said the same thing, because the logo was just a red background and it was a fist held up like this. We can't get it in front of the camera. There you go. Now, my friend thought, because what she told them was she wanted to represent empowerment. Every single one of us who looked at that thought it made us think of like white power kind of thing, right? Now, my friend is from Jamaica and is African-American. It was absolutely horrified that was the first thought we all had when we saw that logo. So of course she pulled it down really quickly, and we did some things to help her out, but it's like that never crossed her mind. And so that's the whole thing, is that I think it goes back to, she just was like, oh yeah, that's empowering. Not so much the way that graphic designer represented it, not the way it came across to all of us, which is why we say it's not about you. Right. Right. So, and
I think that's good. That's a really good example. And I think that, there's a difference between working with a professional too. Yes, you can do stuff in Canva, and yes, you can have that. And I've seen I saw an episode on The Prophet. I don't know how, I love watching The Prophet. One of the episodes on that was where they had designed something that it was just like so unfortunate by the time they got done, but they'd spent so much money on it because they'd never really asked the question as to who, who was else was looking at this. And it's good to have extra set of eyes on it. But at the end of the day, if you're asking random strangers in Facebook, do you like this logo or do you like this logo? Don't do that. I mean, there's a certain level of, you want their opinion, make sure they aren't seeing something that, that you're not seeing. But at the end of the day, what drives me crazy is if that's the logo that you're investing in, that's the first thing that a lot of people see about you whenever they're coming across you when you're not standing right there. It's part of your brand, and your brand is what people say when you leave the room. It is what you represent. Your logo is just as important as your location if you were a brick and mortar store. And leaving it up to random strangers to decide if you're going to put your office on 3rd Street or 5th Street, you would never do that. But people put their logo out there and asking people that maybe aren't going to even be their ideal clients what they are thinking and if that's, if that's really resonating with them. I see people make that mistake all the time. So there's a lot to it. You don't have to do all of it today. But there are some prep work. And like I said, that's where we really wanted to come along with the boot camp to do that beginning prep work. Start thinking about it. Start taking a look at it. Start looking at other things your clients are buying from other people. Are they Starbucks people or are they Whole Foods? Are they, go through the ideas and stuff. And again, you're small enough, you can ask them. You know what I mean? Who are they already shopping with? But pick those big names that you can kind of compare and say, okay, this is who I'm working with. This kind of defines them. Yeah. Right.
And so the other thing I wanted to bring up here is that, for instance, I think you and I were riffing on a thread the other day because I don't have a logo. And quite frankly, as a coach, I don't think I need one. However, I do think that my programs, and I have one in beta right now. I think the programs need logos, right? And so I wanted to encourage those of you who you may already be married to a logo. You may already have such an audience and such a following that you can't change it at this point, or that you don't feel comfortable changing it at this point, and that's okay. But I still think that this workshop could be helpful because how many of us have either informational products or and I really think that this kind of ties into cover design as well for different books, right? Because couldn't you apply these principles for design to the message that you're trying to get out in a particular book and helping you to do better with getting your cover designs done?
Oh, absolutely. And even with that, you look at this perspective of stuff as well, especially your authors. Authors notoriously are going to have book signings. They're going to have other things. They need to have some sort of a logo, some sort of a representation, something easy that they can take and drape over the table, that they do. And we have, those kind of products. But what you're doing is, like I said, you're getting where people, if you're being seen consistently, people will start looking for you. That they'll look for you by your booth, they'll look for you by, whatever it is that you're presenting. People need to be able to read it from a distance, and all of those things are logo friendly. If you're going to do a book cover, I've seen some dreadful book covers out there.
Oh, I have to.
That way, there are some stuff that they obviously did not talk to anybody before they put it out there,
or they did and they just didn't listen to the feedback.
Or they didn't listen. That happens a lot. But it is one of those things. I will tell you, when you work with a professional, and that's kind of the difference between when you're getting ready to take it to that next level, and maybe you're not there yet, and like I said, there's so many other pieces. But even with that, working with a professional level, I've finally gotten my husband to where he'll recognize logos and go, look at that, or see things because I see the things, because I'm looking for them. I'm trained to look, and that's where I notice those type of things. And until you're really inundated with that, you kind of lose out a little bit, because your eye isn't trained to see the difference between a good logo and a bad logo. And I've seen some stuff that's that looks really, really cool when it's online and it's, this big. But when you blow that thing up because you've used too small of a font or you've used different things, you're not going to know that mistake could have been avoided when the logo was this big versus You know,
Yeah.
now that you need a sponsorship banner, people say all the time, "Oh, I'm just online. I don't even need, I don't need business cards. I never meet anybody." We're all that entrepreneur, right? But you will have that time, that odd thing that you do not want to be writing your name on a bar napkin somewhere and give them, or writing your name on their business card because they have business cards and you don't.
No, and that is so Tammy, I have thrown away so many boxes of business cards because I ended up not, like, the end product ended up not being okay, maybe 100 cards in, and I ordered too many, and I've had to chuck the whole thing. And I was at a conference in October, and I was in this place where I hadn't come up with anything new yet because of exactly that. I'm like, I never go anywhere right now anyway. I don't need it right now. And I needed one, and I didn't have it. And so I was like, I'm just going to have to email you. And that is not okay. Like, it's really not okay to have that happen. But what I love about that $47 workshop is obviously eventually, hopefully, people would come and work with you when they're ready for that. But what I love is that you're giving this value that they don't have to come work with you if it doesn't come to that, or they don't want to. But you're still giving them this value in this understanding the elements of that and understanding it. And that, to me, that would be just a crazy, awesomely well spent $47, to have that background as you move forward.
You get a PDF workbook and stuff too, that at the end of the day, you can take to a designer of your choice and say, this is what I want and why. And so they should be able to take that document and help you figure out the ideal logo that's going to do more, right, than just be out there. It's going to attract your customer. And
you could take that process in this workbook and print multiple copies. And if you have several different products, you can just work for it on each product, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you may be writing a book that is predominantly male centric, right? You may have somebody that's your target market. Well, those logos, that font style, all of that is going to attract a different customer, right? So you want to have those things, in place so that you know what you're looking for, so that even if a designer comes back to you, I had a designer post something that was a logo deal. I don't understand again why they did. I looked at the logo and I knew I had seen that monkey or whatever it was that they were using as part of the logo. It was clip art. They can't, number one, you can't trademark it, you can't register it. So it's not got that value to it. And I've seen it 1,000 times. And just to tell that, that designer, if you're getting a $5 logo, there is a good chance that it's not going to be something that's custom.
Because oftentimes it is very true that you get what you pay for.
You can get what you pay for, but it doesn't have to be, like I said, there's a starting point where you have no money and all you have is time. You either have time or you have money, one of the two. And so I get that part of this. So this is that part of educating yourself before you have a logo design. Do a logo. Canva's not my favorite. There's a whole issue with Canva and logos, but you can use Canva to get you to the next level. And you will probably have to pay a designer at some point to convert that over to a vector. Don't even get into language, but convert that over for you into something that you can do later on. It's okay. You can do it. And it will get you through that next step. And I think that that's okay, as long as, like I said, you're not just throwing something together because it works for the time, that you've actually put a little thought into it. So
yeah. Oh, and just to be clear, I wasn't advocating that people should go to Canva. That was sometimes we have to do that to get by kind of thing.
I absolutely get it though. And like I said, you kind of get into that deal. I don't want any Canva shaming, because I've used Canva. Canva's fantastic for a lot of things, and I have all the professional toys, right? But there's some reasons that you can use Canva that's just perfectly wonderful, and you should totally do it. Social media. Oh my gosh, what would we do without it? And so there are a lot of good things with that, but I will tell you, it's not the prime, because there are issues with it and how you scale it later on. So there are things, like I said, and we cover all of that in the workshop. That's not
what's great.
New.
People will know. They will know if they do it.
It's also something that we don't drip it out. We give it all to you. So if you want to binge watch it like Netflix without the guilt, you can do that. You can spend a couple hours on the weekend to do it. They're short little bite-sized pieces. If you don't have, you're a mom and you're busy, you can do just little bits and pieces. So we've tried to think of everything, because I've been where you are, and it's just kind of one of those deals that you need to come alongside. You need to start understanding your brand. It is important. It's not an accessory. It is something that actually is going to attract your customers, so it's worth you investing in.
Yeah.
So that's my
advice
with that.
I love what you said about your brand is what people say when you leave the room, because that's not just tied to your logo. That's not just tied to the swag that we've talked about. That's not just tied to these visual representations, right, of these meaningful connections, like your little van, your little room van that you have from the car talk 4 years ago. Yeah. And those things are important, but these are the things that are these are just the visual representations that are important, but it's what's tying people back to their memory of their experience with you. And so while you can actually do everything that Tammy teaches in the workshops, you could spend all the money and hire her. You could do all those things right. But if you are not actually connecting and caring at the base level, and you don't need a bit of money in the world to do that. All you need is the right intent and the right heart. And we all actually have the time for that if we prioritize it. You know, it's really
absolutely. That's a huge part of this. It really is. You know, is like I said, you're small enough to do what Coca-Cola can't do. Yeah. You know, and we think, oh, when we're bigger, we'll do that when we're bigger. And I will tell you, like even on the planner stuff, you know, and I was going to show you, like even on some of the planners and stuff that people are designing and putting together. We have these done. If you have 25 people that are in a paid membership or a paid group or something, we can have these printed in like groups of 25. I try not to make it so that you have to have 2,000 people or, you know, 7,000 people or a bazillion people like Stu. You don't have to have all of that. You can go in and find ways of doing it on a small level. Beta test it. Make sure that it's going to work. Like you said with the business cards. You don't have to order 1,000 business cards. You can order, you know, 100 or whatever. That way you may end up keeping them forever, or you may go through them really quickly, but at least you'll know what's working and stuff by the time you get to the end of that. So I just wanted to throw that out, but it is the connection piece that figure out what that means for you and how that works. And you can do so much when you're small that you're not going to be able to do when you're large.
Yeah. You know, I want to tell a little bit of, can I tell a little bit of a story that you and I talked about your speaking thing?
Sure.
That you did? Okay. So I'm not going to tell you the content of her speech because I don't even really know it, but I do know that Tammy went to a retreat with a fairly well-known, pretty successful Christian coach, okay, who has membership and courses and that kind of thing. And she gave out a Rubik's Cube. Now, I don't know how it connected to the speech, right? But she does, and everybody raved about it, and there's testimonials about it. And so the thing is, that's not tied to her logo. That's not tied to her brand necessarily, but it was just like that car that she had with the stay in your lane thing. That's something small that didn't cost a lot of money that people are going to leave sitting on their desk that's always going to tie them back to that message. So what are the connection pieces that are going to tie people back to your message, even if it's not something physical right now, right? What kind of connection can you make that's going to make people always remember your message? And sometimes that might even just be the way you go on lives and rant about the law of attraction and how it's not super biblical. But there's going to be something that's memorable and meaningful. And if you are, let's just say your motives are pure and your best interest, you're concerned with the best interest of the person in front of you, not the best interest of your checkbook, not your own best interest. If we go forth and give that value and we're selfless, I think that goes a long way towards giving us the grace as we're figuring the rest of this out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, is there any thought you want to leave us with? I am going to add you to our group. That way people can tag you if they have any questions. And that way you can actually go in under the live and put links for your workshops, links for your website. You can shamelessly plug whatever you want to up under there. We'd be happy for you to do it. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Heather. It's been a lot of fun. And like I said, we always have a good time whenever we get together and chat. We're always talking about something. You know, at the end of the day, you know, like I said, I think if I can leave you with some parting ideas, right? Mm-hmm. What would your T-shirt say about you? What if you were going to design a T-shirt? What would it say about your business? If you couldn't use your logo, right? What would that say? What could you say in there that would speak the language of your tribe? Whether you're, you know, like you said, the rants and stuff that way. I love humor. right? Humor is a huge part of my brand. Somebody once told me, and I used it, it's like I couldn't really think of all the stuff. Somebody said about Tammy Fink, right, that she's loud, lovable, and full of laughs. I try to keep that in my brand all the time because I think that reaches more of my clients. They want to have fun. A lot of them are isolated, because they're solopreneurs. While we love that, we're still, at the end of the day, it's us and the computer screen. And so I try to figure out ways that we can break through that. I do some crazy, crazy stuff with, if you Facebook stalk me, you're going to see, I just did a giant ampersand. I don't know if you saw that this last week. I did the giant ampersand that we saw. Anything that's like big and larger than life, I'm going to get my picture taken next to giant ice cream cones and gorillas. And I mean, there's been things that are just crazy, but that's part of my brand. It's authentic to who I am. I want to be larger than life. I want to be able to play that game. So I've come along and figured out those little components. Again, it's not really about the brand thing. It's not about what font I picked and all of that. You're going to have to come outside yourself and find something that's easy for you to do. I am the crazy girl that's going to say, oh my gosh, did you see that? Stop the car. I need a selfie. I'm going to be that girl. And so it's easy for me to play that part because that's who I am. Yeah. So finding out who you are, how you're coming across, like you said, if you have the gift of hospitality, right? If you have that gift, utilize that gift. If you can go into, whatever it is that really brings that smile to your face, it's going to bring the smile to others. And those people are going to be your ideal clients. Those are going to be the people that know, like, and trust you. And you're going to be able to find the ways to connect with them. But do take the time to bridge the gap between in real life and the virtual world. It really will pay off.
Absolutely. I have to tell you too, I did use your group as an example. In fact, I invited one of my coaches to your group because I told her I wanted her to see the way you were doing your welcome posts inside the group because I'm in so many groups and there are so many people who do it well, but yours are the most fun. Like I sit there and watch because I want to answer the questions that you ask on your welcome posts.
Right. And that's something I worked a long time with it. I thought about the things that I wanted to put out there as to some of the craziness and stuff that we do. And some of it was just really silly. And the things that I really thought would connect with people isn't what connects with people. The ice cream microwave thing, if you
I didn't see that one.
The microwave button, the ice cream microwave button is one of my favorite things. And people just lose their mind. I've had to go try to find pictures and stuff. We've since lost the microwave. I wish that I needed to keep a screenshot of the whole deal. I kind of remember what brand it was. And when I went to replace it, I couldn't replace it. But
you mean you couldn't find one that had the softened ice cream button on it?
No, I could not.
I think ours has that.
I found some stuff that you can, some recipes on how to, it's programming into your microwave, but nobody does that.
Right.
I'm all excited about the smart microwaves. I'm hoping that's like built in at some point.
Hey, my favorite these days is the baked potato button. I have a baked potato button, so I don't have to guess and keep adding time anymore, and it like censors it. Anyway, okay, we're rabbit trailing.
We are.
Anyway, I just wanted to let you know that I think you've done an excellent job of that in the group. And that's one of the reasons I love hanging out there so much because it is a lot of fun and it totally fits your personality. And it does make you very memorable because I don't know if you can remember back to Tribe's launch last year, actually is what it was, because Rachel Miller was promoting it. I think that you were following her page and like she ended up having you on in some kind of last minute interview for like you had commented about something and she had you come on a live and I was like passing through and I'm like, what? That's Rachel. Wait, that looks like Tammy. And I'm like, that looks like Tammy Fink in the comments, right? And we didn't really know each other super well then, but I knew who you were. Like I knew who you were by name when I saw you on Rachel Miller's page. So I think it just goes back to making the point of being memorable, being you, and sometimes you were making those meaningful connections without even knowing it, right?
Yep. So. No, absolutely. And you'll make those connections and stuff. People are going to know who you are by, what is by your walk, that's really, it's true online too.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for taking your time and talking to us today. And I'll go ahead and add you and tag you so you can drop your links. And I hope we'll be seeing more of you.
Okay. Sounds
Thanks,
good.
Tammy.
Bye for now.